Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the bull case for Pump.fun and why it will go from a currently $1.2 billion market cap to a market cap of around 15 billion this cycle. And I'll go through some of the reasons why I believe this valuation is reasonable for this cycle and for this coin. So let's get straight into it. So for those that don't know, what is this coin? So Pump is a token of Pump.fun, and this is the leading Solana platform for creating and trading meme coins. If you haven't heard of it, Pump.fun is basically somewhere where anyone is able to launch their own coin, and then anyone is able to buy it, right? You can buy any coin launched on here, and some of the biggest meme coins have originally been launched on here. For example, right, Fartcoin is one that was launched on here, and that went to about 2.5 billion. So it's a huge launch pad for any new coins, right? So let's get into the first reasons why the Pump.fun token should appreciate in value this cycle. So first of all, meme coins are probably the #1 narrative of the cycle. So I have a separate video on this. Basically, every bull market has a defining theme. Last cycle, it was DeFi, it was NFTs. If you remember, everyone was talking about the Bored Apes, other NFT collections. And this cycle, it's meme coins. Meme coins are the equivalent of NFTs last cycle because there's always a domain that attracts a lot of retail participants and a speculative asset class that does extremely well. So last cycle was NFTs, and this cycle, it's meme coins. They dominate attention, liquidity, and culture. And as discussed earlier, Pump.fun is the main engine for this narrative. It's the #1 place to trade meme coins and launch meme coins, right? So it makes it well positioned. It's well positioned if we think the meme coin narrative is a big narrative this cycle. So another very important point is the massive buybacks that the Pump.fun team is doing. So if we look on X, we can see that they've been buying back a lot of coins. We can see that $10 million worth of Pump.fun coins have been purchased from August 20th to August 26th, right? That's just 1 week, and they're doing this every single week. So you have a perpetual bid for tokens for this coin. So there's always going to be excess buying pressure rather than selling pressure. So if no one trades this coin, it's naturally going to go up because there's continuously demand from the Pump.fun team. And this is a team that's generating millions and millions of dollars consistently. And it's one of the teams with the biggest treasuries and one of the teams that has the most cash in reserves to allocate towards buybacks. So it makes it a very strong team. And this is a huge reason why I believe this token will go up, is because of the massive amount of revenue they're generating is going directly into buying back more tokens, making the price go up, right? Another important point is the shift from infrastructure L1s to apps. So crypto's first decade, basically the first whole decade of crypto, has all been about infrastructure, right? Getting the infrastructure in place so that we could build quality applications that were able to attract users. So the first cycles of crypto were just Bitcoin. You had Ethereum. Last cycle, you had like BNB and Solana really take off. And it's all been these L1s where things can be built on top of. But this cycle, we're really seeing the emergence of applications doing well, right? We're seeing, for example, on the Ethereum side, we're seeing Aave, which is the lending and borrowing protocol, doing very well. We're seeing a transition of attention and capital from the underlying chain, and people are now focusing on what applications can be built on these chains. Aave being a good example of what can be built on Ethereum, but what can be built on Solana, right? Solana is also a very dominant chain, and the #1 application on Solana is actually, I think there might be one that's slightly higher. So Jupiter is 59th and Pump is 68th. So it's not #1, but it's because it's slightly different. So Jupiter is more of a decentralized exchange, while Pump.fun is the number one place to trade meme coins, and especially to create meme coins. But regardless, it's one of the biggest apps on the Solana chain. And if you believe we see this transition from infrastructure into more application focused coins, then Pump.fun is another investment that makes sense. And because it's the number one app when it comes to meme coins, and it captures a lot of this financial flow that will naturally happen as meme coins take off, and as capital starts looking for applications that are doing quite well, right? Because I think a lot of people, especially TradFi, people from traditional finance, are all about revenue. And Ethereum, Solana, they don't generate as much fees, and it's kind of harder to understand the valuation models for these investments. But for applications, it's very clear. You look at the revenue, and they can just do a cash flow analysis just like you would do for stocks, and it makes it an investment that makes sense for a lot of new people, right? Because they actually have revenue. So the next point is betting on the top app is a smart play. So the comparison here is that the top consumer app on the chain does very well. And I want to look at the example or the top few, right? And it just doesn't have to be the number one app. But if we look at, Uniswap last cycle, right? Uniswap was the number one decentralized exchange on Ethereum. And basically, Ethereum was the best performing L1 last cycle, right? It went very high, right? Let's just go to Ethereum real quick. Yeah, so Ethereum went to almost 5K last cycle, and coming from only 161, like it did very well. And another coin that did very well was Uniswap, because Uniswap was the number one application on Ethereum, right? It went from like $3 all the way to 44, and I believe this was about a $40 billion market cap, which is why I get a 15 billion. I forgot what price target did I put for Pump.fun. Yeah, 15 billion. So if the number one app on Ethereum can go to 40 billion last cycle, I think it's very possible for 15 billion to happen on Solana. And the reason I don't have it as 40 billion is because there's other applications. As we saw, Jupiter was a slightly higher market cap than Pump.fun. I have a separate video on Jupiter if you want to check it out. But anyways, owning one of the top applications on Solana becomes kind of a leverage bet on the Solana ecosystem. If you were very bullish Ethereum last cycle, it made sense to invest in Aave and Uniswap. If you're very bullish Solana this cycle, it makes sense to invest in some of the best applications, right? Jupiter being one, obviously, but then also Pump.fun being one with the meme coin narrative behind it, which I think is the biggest narrative this cycle, right? So by owning the coin, you own the upside for the number one app of the number one narrative, right? The number one narrative being meme coins, and it's the best app to participate in this narrative, because you can bet on meme coins, and a lot of meme coins will do extremely well, but it's lower risk to just invest in the infrastructure, allowing the meme coin activity to take place, because then it's less risky because you're just owning the infrastructure behind it. It won't perform as well as the best performing meme coins, but apps such as Pump will still do very well and benefit from this narrative immensely. And then finally, I believe this is the last point, it's riding the Solana megatrend. So Solana is all about a fastly growing ecosystem that is accessible for retail. It's cheap, it's fast, it's retail friendly, and that's exactly why meme coins are exploding there. And Pump.fun is the one that's allowing this to take place. It's the flagship Solana app. It's the app it's the best perform. It's the app that's generating the most fees on Solana, and it's kind of carrying Solana on its back when it comes to like revenue attracting users. A lot of users come straight from Pump.fun because it's such a requested product from retail. And betting on pump is also a leverage way to bet on salon dominance, which is something I talked about earlier. How the best apps on a specific chain will almost always, outperform the underlying token itself. As we saw how Uniswap outperformed Ethereum and how Aave outperformed Ethereum, will likely see Pump.fun do extremely well. So I went through the main points for why I think Pump.fun is a good investment this cycle. But let's get into what you should do right now and how to position yourself for this outcome, right? So let's just look at the chart. Is it a good time to get in now? Should you wait? What's going on? So originally there was an IPO, there was a public sale here, right? So they offered people to buy the token before it launched, and they actually sold out really quickly, showing that there's very high demand for this coin. But I think people got a little too excited and a little too bullish on this coin. It went straight to $7.2, and there was just too much excitement that there had to be a drawdown to shake out all the new people, right? There was too much excitement at this point. So naturally, you had a very large correction, almost 70% correction from the highs. And here, there was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of concern about the Pump.fun ecosystem, because this was the time where the Bonk team was actually coming up with launch pads, and Jupiter also had launch pads that were taking away some of Pump's market share. I believe Bonk had better statistics when it came to coins and the amount of people trading new coins and launching coins on their launch pads. And then eventually Pump.fun came out with the program where they're going to start buying back the token, and that really led to price increase as well as other decisions they made to beat their competition, which I believe now they have gained back some of the market share. And in terms of a time to get in, I think it's still a good time to get in, even though it's up quite a bit from the lows here, 50%. It's still down a lot from the highs, and it's still down a lot from the price that people were willing to pay for during the public sale. So I think it will go higher from here, and we might get a pullback here, but I wouldn't bet on it. And I think that any price that you pay in this range is honestly quite good, especially if you think that a $15 billion market cap is reasonable, and if you believe in the Solana ecosystem and you believe in the meme coin narrative. I think it all makes sense to buy anywhere here. So that's basically what I think about Pump.fun. Let me know if you have any more questions, and thanks for watching.